let's dig into the scriptures from another angle and ask the question, was there a divine angel in the Old Testament? This is something you've probably heard about, the angel of the Lord, in Hebrew, Malach Adonai, or Malach Yahweh. Is that a distinct being where it speaks of God revealing himself? I would say the Son of God revealing himself in a physical form. Is it speaking of that, or is it simply that the Malach, the messenger, carries the authority of the one who sent him? So, for example, if I come with an announcement, let's say I'm sent by the local police chief into a community and says, Police Chief so-and-so says everyone has to evacuate, hurricane coming. I'm not speaking with my authority, but with the police chief's authority. We certainly have that where the messenger carries the authority of the one sending it. The prophets do it all the time, right? Ko amar Adonai. This is what the Lord has said. Or Ne'um Adonai, utterance of the Lord. Or Pi Adonai Diber, the mouth of the Lord has spoken. These are some of the most common terms that are used. They spoke with divine authority. But could you have a conversation with them where they would continue to speak with divine authority as if they were God, where they would go from he says to I say? How would that work? So there are some who say, no, it's just a representative. Others say, no, in certain cases, it's clear that this is God himself manifesting himself in the angel. Now, I'm going to look at a few texts in a moment. But as I was going through the scriptures a few days ago in Exodus, it struck me, I'm sure I've seen this many times, but I was just struck by it again, that in Exodus, the 14th chapter, the pillar of cloud separating the Israelites from the Egyptians, that it says God looked from the pillar of cloud. In other words, he was actually present in the cloud and in the fire. Even though he's transcendent, invisible to our senses, right? No one has ever seen God. That's stated several times. Old Testament, New Testament, in fact, states it several times. Jesus says it. No one's seen God. You've never seen God. So even though that's the case, he did manifest himself in physical ways and at times even in a human body or a human form or an angelic form that looked to be human. So let's take a look at a few of these passages. We start in Genesis chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16, Hagar is fleeing from Sarah. Sarai, as she's called then, Abraham's wife. She suggested Abraham takes Hagar as a wife because Sarah can't have kids. When Hagar conceives, has Ishmael, Sarah's upset, jealous, wants to get rid of him. Okay. So it says, Va'im sa'am al-ach Adonai al eitz hamayim. Al ein hamayim b'midbar. Now, the New JPS translation says, an angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness. Others would translate, the angel of the Lord. And that's a totally legitimate translation for various grammatical reasons. So the angel, the malach, the messenger, says, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? She said, I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai. And then, as we scroll down, and the angel of the Lord, now notice this time it says the angel of the Lord, right? And the angel of the Lord said to her, go back to your mistress and submit to her harsh treatment. And the angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly increase. So, Vayomer la malach Adonai harba arbe et zarecha v'lo yisafer merov. The angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly increase your offspring, and they shall be too many to count. Now, it's God speaking through the angel. Does it mean God is in the angel or just the angel speaking with divine authority? It's debatable. The angel of the Lord said to her further, behold, you are with child, shall bear a son. Okay, it goes on from there. So is that evidence that God was in this malach? God was in this messenger. It was the Son of God appearing, making God known, making the Father known. Is that what was happening? Or was the angel simply speaking for the Lord, like a prophet saying, I, the Lord, say to you? Or if you've been at a charismatic Pentecostal church for the first time, you hear a prophecy, I, the Lord, say, that person thinks they're God? What? No. They're just speaking a message for the Lord. Okay, let's go to Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3. And that's a little clearer there. Now Moses tended the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, drove the flock into the wilderness, came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And it says, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire out of a bush. So once again, it says an angel. You could translate the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire out of a bush. So he sees the fire, and the angel appears out of the fire. He gazed, and there was a bush all aflame, yet the bush was not consumed. So he sees fire, and this is how the malach, the angel, is appearing. Moses said, I must turn aside to look at this marvelous sight. Why doesn't the bush burn up? All right, we continue, verse 4. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, here I am. And he said, do not come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you stand is holy ground. I am, he said, the God of your father, the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Ki hareme habit el ha'elohim, was afraid to look at God. Let's step back and think about that. We'll continue on the other side of the break. It seems as if God's presence, God himself, was actually there in the fire. Hence, don't come any closer. Hence, first-person speech. Hence, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hence, Moses being afraid to look at God. We'll be right back. So, in Exodus 3, we saw that it says the Malach Adonai, the angel of the Lord, appears to Moses out of the burning bush. And he sees a fire, so he doesn't see a form of a face or of a being or anything like that. Something looks like one of the cherubim or seraphim described elsewhere in the Bible, or a human form, a body. And no, he just sees the fire. So God is appearing out of the fire. And as you read it, it seems to me more than just an angel speaking with divine authority. It seems that the very presence of God is in that malach, that the very presence of God is there in him, to the point that Moses is afraid to look at him. Now, some ancient Jewish traditions say he was afraid to look at the glory of the Lord or towards the glory of the Lord, but the Hebrew simply says he was afraid to look at God. So in his mind, he understood that God was there, speaking out of the burning bush. And why not? What would have told him that couldn't be? What in the ancient religious world would have taught him that couldn't be? What in the nature of God would have taught him that that couldn't be? That God could not literally come down and manifest himself in that way and speak directly to him. Moses certainly thought he was being spoken to directly by God. You say, well, then why doesn't it just say God came in the bush? Why does it say the messenger of the Lord? Well, this is how God discloses himself. This is how God reveals himself. This is the reminder that he is not contained in that fire, that he is the infinite and eternal God, and yet he reveals himself in the midst of it. Now, a passage that Dr. Michael Heiser has often drawn attention to is quite remarkable. So we go to Genesis chapter 48. Genesis 48, and here Jacob is going to bless the sons of Joseph, Manasseh and Ephraim, but he's going to bless them in the reverse order, Ephraim and Manasseh. So it says, and he, this is Jacob, Yivarechet Yosef, and he blessed Joseph, saying, it starts with Hebrew, Ha-Elohim, the God in whose ways my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked. All right. And then again, Ha-Elohim, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day. And then Ha-Malach ha-Goel oti mikol ra yivarech et hana'arim. So the God in whose ways my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the lads. And then may my name be recalled and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth. Now let's leave the text up and think about this for a moment. The clear parallelism is undeniable. The God, the angel. He's speaking of one and the same being. That's first thing. Second thing is that even the new JPS translation, which does not believe things that we believe about Jesus and divine Messiah and things like that, it translates with the angel with a capital A. The same if you look, for example, Ephraim Spicer and the Anchor Bible Commentary on Genesis. So he was a great Semitic scholar, not a religious Jew, but Jewish scholar. He also translates with a capital A, the angel. So capital A in English to convey this. In other words, the angel is the way that God is spoken of here. There's no denying it in terms of the syntax. And when you read commentaries trying to explain it away, it's really an uphill battle. If I say, let's say I'm introducing Nancy, I want to talk to you about my best friend in this world. I want to talk to you about the woman that I have been married to since 1976. I want to talk to you about the mother of our children and the grandmother of our grandchildren. I want to talk to you about this amazing woman. Well, that's the same person. The God, the angel, it's the same being described. So there is no question that this verse confirms the existence of a divine angel or God working so much through the angel that that angel bears his very identity. There's really no denying it grammatically, syntactically, and it is then singular. May he bless them. All right, so it's this God, this angel, may he bless them. Not may they, or now separated from God, just the angel does it. It's really fascinating. It's really quite undeniable. Now, in my book, Resurrection, investigating a rabbi from Brooklyn, a preacher from Galilee, and an event that changed the world, I deal with this question of a divine angel. I want to take down the scriptural text, and I want to go over to my Resurrection book. It's a really fascinating read. It'll take you through Jewish tradition, history, different beliefs about messiahs, contemporary beliefs about rabbinic leaders being Messiah, and then compare that to the claims of Jesus the Messiah and claims of resurrection from the dead. So there is a commentary on the Torah, Bachya ben Asher, and known as Rabbeinu Bachya, and he's around the 13th century, and he's commenting on the angel of the Lord in Genesis 22, okay? Genesis 22, so specifically 12:55 to 13:40. This is when the angel of the Lord tells Abraham, don't sacrifice Isaac on the mountain. Right? God's told him to do it. Now the angel says, don't do it. And he's commenting on the words, you did not withhold your son. It doesn't say you did not withhold your son from him, but rather you did not withhold your son from me. So listen to what Rabbi Bachya wrote. Now remember, he doesn't believe in Jesus. He doesn't believe the same things we believe. All right? I'm not hinting that he did. I'm not suggesting that he did in any way. I'm just saying it's fascinating to see his commentary here on Genesis 22. He said, you also need to know that the apparently strange phenomenon in this paragraph, that is that God is the one who subjects Abraham to the trial, whereas the angel prevented him from going through with it, needs to be understood. The angel mentioned in our paragraph is not of the category of the Nifradim, disembodied spiritual creatures, but it belonged to what are known as the Nitiot, the emanations of God. Had the angel who called out to Avraham, and got to scroll that page up, there we go, and instructed him to desist, belonged to the category known as Nifradim, disembodied spiritual creatures, Abraham would have ignored him, would have not allowed himself to be countermanded by a subordinate of the one who had instructed him in the first place. Moreover, it is quite unthinkable that an angel of the lower category, Nifradim, disembodied spiritual creatures, would have been allowed to say to Avraham, V'lo chasachta et bincha mimeni, and you did not withhold your son from me. He would have had to say, you have not withheld your son from him. So he says, all of this proves that the voice which the Torah describes as emanating from an angel of God was of a superior divine level. This angel is also known as the great angel, who manifested himself in Exodus 14:19 when the Torah describes him as traveling in front of the encampment of the Jewish people, performing all kinds of miracles. When the Torah describes the divine emanation as malach, angel, the meaning is that God is contained, present within this divine emanation. Okay, if you have my Resurrection book, should be around pages 112, 113. If not, it's a fascinating read. I'd commend it to you for many different reasons. That's why I wrote it. Also a fascinating read to give to Jewish friends, especially religious Jewish friends in particular. But what he's saying is fascinating, that if the angel said, stop, don't sacrifice him, Abraham would have ignored him because God himself said, do it. So you don't listen to a subordinate who says, don't do it. Now, obviously you could say, well, the subordinate came with a message from God. That'd be the logical answer. But Bachya says, actually, no, this is not just a messenger from God. This was God present. This is an emanation from God of some kind. This is God present in that malach, which is why when he speaks, Abraham listens. But then the language, you did not withhold your son from me, as opposed to from him, from God. And then he speaks, now I know that you fear me. So it's just very interesting to see these observations. Again, their beliefs would be different. But here's an understanding that the Malach and Rabbi Bach's commentary contain mystical elements, Kabbalistic elements in it. It's part of what he did, philosophical elements, Kabbalistic elements, and then just trying to understand the plain sense of the text as well as his homiletical sense. So he is looking at things through these mystical eyes. But it's striking that even coming from a very different point of view, that of traditional Judaism, there are observations about this divine angel, about this angel who uniquely carried the presence of God. And I say yes and amen to that. Let's just understand this is how God has revealed himself through his Son. John 14, Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. In John 1:18, no one has ever seen God, but the one and only God in the bosom of the Father, he has made him known. And you first start learning Greek, and you get to that passage, and you see that it's literally, if we translate it in a hyperliteral way into English, that the Son has exegeted God. I mean, it's not the right way to translate it because it's going to have a little bit different meaning, but he's the one who has made him known, opened up to us his actual being. Wow, that's what the Son does. And he does it throughout the Hebrew Bible in various ways, manifesting himself. That's how the hidden, invisible God reveals himself in manifest, physical, earthly, visible ways in the Bible.